Hello, everyone. I'm Billy.
And I'm Kamraun. Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors and the creators of the Malazan Brotherhood.
Today, we will be discussing Book 4, Chapter 19 of Deadhouse Gates, a novel in the Malazan Books of the Fallen. This is part 2 of our coverage of this chapter.
It's good to see that we're getting back to our normal cadence of 2 to 3 episodes per chapter.
I agree.
I feel like when we do one, that we are not doing that chapter a service.
I feel the same. Agreed. This is why y'all tune in, folks, for this level of excruciating detail that you get nowhere else.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it is most definitely not intended to be a replacement to reading the books. Both Billy and I know this to be the best fantasy story ever written and want to share our love of the series with you.
Are you glad it didn't surprise you with a testify or something like falling on the floor and screaming loud or something?
Do your best, sir.
All right. Game on. Okay. We'll be covering the events in the books in a linear fashion, and there will be spoilers for those that have not read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective books, but that ship has sailed multiple times. I just dropped it recently. We're back to now. I think this is incident 0.
We're at 1. We're at 1 again.
Oh, we're at 1. Sorry. So days without incident, episodes without incident 1. Hopefully 2.
What's the highest number you think we'll ever get to?
I don't even know what the highest we've ever got to. I think through here we did pretty good for a while. I think I did pretty good until I kind of realized that I hadn't screwed up.
You know, the longer we go, the easier this is going to be, because at some point there's not going to be many spoilers left.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. 10 years from now in The Crippled God, or if we're that far. That's amazing to think, dude.
A quick warning, today's episode contains descriptions of extreme violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate that. And you can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at horsefrogproductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we'd really like to hear from you. Send any feedback or comments to contact@horsefrogproductions.com. All right, Chapter 19, Part 2. We pick up the chapter with Fiddler and company as they approach Tremorlore. They had paused for a rest. Mappo lowered an unconscious Ikarium to the ground and knelt beside him. Tremorlore's desire for Ikarium was palpable. Mappo closed his eyes and thought, "The Nameless Ones have guided us here, delivering Ikarium to the Azath as they would a goat to a hill god. Yet it is not their hands that will be bloodied by the deed. I am the one who will be stained by this." Why is it always a goat?
I know that due to Mr. Erikson's knowledge of archaeology and anthropology, I catch a lot of things that I think are quite biblical in his works, or references to such, or maybe influenced by such, because there's some really rich stuff in there. There is some mention of the goat demons mentioned in the Bible. It doesn't mention them by name, of course, because we don't want to give them any credence. It's just one of these things. But there's also the use of the scapegoat. And I'm just curious if that's just things that stood out, and he just kind of, and it may be a very common practice, because every high hill was a place of worship, basically. Any hill under any tree, you know about that stuff, right? It's kind of, they just worshipped and partied and sacrificed and had sex everywhere. I mean, it was their celebrations to their gods. So it could be a reference to Bacchus.
Oh, okay.
He's like Pan. Dionysus, I think, is all like another name for him.
So also it could be they're kind of a 7 cities culture. A lot of the livestock likely is goats, given the climate.
Absolutely. So that you would want to worship something that might help, from their point of view to help their livestock breed good, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Why do people, I don't know, people have worshipped goats here. I don't know why, dude.
It seems every time I hear about sacrificing animals for something, it always seems to be a goat somehow.
Well, in a sacrifice, the idea is that you don't really burn the whole thing up usually. You sacrifice it by cooking it, and then the priest can usually, like at least for the Jewish priest, the priest could eat a lot of this stuff. You were offering the aroma up, but that's how the other gods that the ancient world here worshipped is the gods ate their sacrifice through the smoke, and then they were allowed to eat the meat, I believe. So it's like a big barbecue, in all honesty. I mean, a big orgy / barbecue beer party. They had, what else you got to live for back in them? Hard times.
Mappo struggled to conjure the image of his birthplace following its destruction, but it was now haunted by shadows. Doubt had replaced conviction. He no longer believed his own memories. He thought, "Foolish, Ikarium has taken countless lives. Whatever the truth behind my town's death, My tribe, the shoulder women, would not betray me. What weight can be placed on Ikariam's dreams? The Jag remembers nothing, nothing real. His equanimity softens truth, blurs the edges, smears every color, until the memory is daubed anew. Thus, it is Ikariam's kindness that has snared me. So do you think Mappo suspects the Nameless Ones may have faked the destruction of his town to make him think Ikariam had destroyed it?
I could see him thinking this, actually. And it's, there is a lot of subterfuge in this world. And that could very well, he could be being led along. We do know for a fact that Ikariam is dangerous from what we've seen in this book. He seems to be a pretty dangerous fella for sure, but think of the other town we came to. He did destroy. The one with his machine, that is one he destroyed. But Mappo's town, that could have been done by his folks or maybe another tribe. Because I know that, I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up. I almost did it again. I almost decreased our episode count to 0.
What I was thinking is, if this is true and the Nameless Ones did do this to make it look like Ikariam had killed all those people, it almost lends credence to the idea that Mappo was being recruited specifically. And so they destroyed something very valuable to him to recruit him.
I could see them doing that because what little we know of him, I mean, he has told us that his peoples were primitive and that they did stuff like what we call counting coup, all the, do those, breaking into the enemy's towns and stealing their stuff, not really trying to hurt things, but doing those kind of shenanigans, but then escalating. They wanted more old school and wanted more violence. Is what he led us to believe. That's how I read that. Is that how you took that? Like,
yeah,
he hooked up with
his wild days.
Yeah, he was doing some like violence.
Didn't he chip the knives of the warriors? Wasn't that they had to break the tips off their knives, and then
the tips off. Yeah,
he had his heart stolen by a girl.
Yes,
she came and took all his trophies.
Yes, I would love to know more of it but that's actually kind of a beautiful story for some reason. I don't know why I like that story because I like Mappo so much. And so while he was doing this stuff, I mean, they could have. Another tribe could have attacked and wiped them out, and they could exploit this, or they could have done it themselves and exploited this. But it's like they've been grooming him.
Mappo looked down at Ikariam and thought, Tremorlore shall not have you. I am not to be so used. If the Nameless Ones would deliver you, then they shall have to come for you themselves, and through me first. He looked up and thought, Tremorlore, reach for him with your roots, and they shall feel the rage of a Trell warrior, his battle dream unleashed, ancient spirits riding his flesh in a dance of murder. This I promise, and so you are warned. I'd like to see what this battle dream looks like.
I'm assuming from this that what we were just talking about him in his younger days, I'm assuming he is a pretty bad fella.
Some like 300-esque.
Yeah.
Battle imagery.
But it's like, I'm seeing 300, but these guys, I'm imagining we've talked about these like trolls.
Yeah. I'm just saying from the visuals perspective.
Yes. Real dreamy, like just brutal, and him just covered in blood, just like bellowing at the sky, a big club in his hand. That'd be great. Did you say you had never seen Hitchhiker or read Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yeah, I haven't really watched the movie or read the books.
If you're going to ever watch it, you have to watch the BBC television show, which looks like old school Doctor Who, but it's accurate and hilarious. It's super low budget, but really great. But the books, it talks about there's this guy that's there to level his house. I'm sorry. I'm going to spoil the crap out of this book for people. If you haven't read this book that's 40 years old, that's on you. So they're here to demolish his house. And this guy Arthur's laying in the way of this bulldozer going to demolish his house. And while this is happening, the supervisor's getting a headache. The construction supervisor, he's kind of a guy in a trench coat. He doesn't drive the bulldozer or nothing like that. But he gets these flashes, these images of villagers running with this pin cushioned with arrows and stuff running. Little did he know that one of his predecessors was Genghis Khan. So he gets these images every now and then. He doesn't understand why, but so I can imagine it's like that. It's backlit with fire, arrows studded people running, bodies just laying on the ground with arrows all over, and him and then Mappo standing there just covered in blood and howling at the moon.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Beside him, Fiddler murmured, "It's said that the Azath have taken gods." Mappo looked at Fiddler with hooded eyes. Fiddler squinted as he studied the walls on all sides and went on. What elder gods, their names forgotten for millennia, are caged here? When did they last see light? When were they last able to move their limbs? Can you imagine an eternity thus endured? If Tremorlord dies, imagine the madness unleashed upon the world. And that is a pretty horrific thought. We've only begun to scratch the surface of ascendance with those that we've learned of thus far.
Yeah.
And there's a lot left to the imagination here.
Yes, there is. And just the thought of how many? I mean, this could be hundreds of ancient ascendants. And why are they here? Are they also seeking something? I mean, maybe not all these, not the path of hands necessarily, but maybe there's other, are you, if they've been here for a long time, why would they come here? Are they looking to subvert the power? People have always been looking to take over the Azath, you think?
I imagine that when people learn of it, and if they get any of their secrets, I think we'll learn a little bit later some additional details about what it's like to be in an Azath.
Yeah.
Later in this chapter, we'll hear that. But when they get that information, they're probably going to seek it out, just like Kellanved and Dancer did.
That's true. See, my thing with Kellanved and Dancer, I'm not sure if they were, I'm guessing they've been looking for a way to get in. It just never opened until the night that they were, I'm assuming when the attempt on their life was made. I've always assumed, because is it like this, that they drugged themselves and they're mortally wounded and didn't die?
Not at all. I think they just went in there and the story that there was an attempt on their life was made up.
Get out of here. You think so? Okay.
I think so, unless I'm forgetting some specific detail.
So Lassie may have never tried this.
I think it was a cover story. I think she felt that they abandoned her.
Oh, dude, why do I think that that's right? Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Because they just disappeared, leaving the control of the Empire. And I guess if she's the third in line, I guess Mike Johnson's the current Speaker of the House, but I was just going to say Nancy Pelosi is the third right. 8 years of her being but that's third in line, right? The Speaker of the House?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. So yeah. So that's what it is. She's kind of bent because she didn't want the job. It's like that gummit, and she's holding the bag.
Well, actually, that's a good point. I don't know if she wanted the job, but she definitely took it once it was presented. Yeah.
Kind of what I've always interpreted, that is quite zestfully.
Yeah, she might have been gunning for him, but while they had their faculties and they weren't distracted, there's no way she was going to be able to take them out. I mean, these are some wily dudes.
Dude, especially, I mean, we know that Shadow Throne himself, or Kellanved, was definitely wily, but dude, Dancer, how wily was he in life if he's this squirrely and as an ascendant? Dude, he must have been a bad fella.
My impression of Shadow Throne is always like he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless Quick Ben's in the room. And then maybe Quick Ben might be smarter. But
I don't know if he's smarter, he's squirrelier.
Yeah, definitely.
He outsquirrels Kellanved, which is a pretty hard thing to do, but it's kind of amazing that we mentioned this last episode, I believe, in the fact that Shadow Throne actually seems to give Rake pause, and Kellanved, as Shadow Throne, is new on the job.
Mm-hmm.
How bad will he be when he's been on the job for a couple thousand years?
It's a good question. If he makes it that far.
Right.
Mappo was silent for a moment. Then he whispered, "What are these darts that you fling at me?" Fiddler's brows rose and he said, "Darts? None intended. This place sits on me like a cloak of vipers. That is all." Mappo said, "Tremorlor has no hunger for you, soldier." Fiddler gave a crooked grin and quipped, "Sometimes it pays being a nobody." Mappo said, "Now you mock in truth." So in my house, we have a saying, "Fun switch off."
Okay.
Basically, when someone's not in the mood to play around, say I'm joking around, the kids are pissed off about something, right. Fun switch off. So Mappo, fun switch off for him. He's not in the mood for any jokes right now. Okay. And I don't blame Fiddler for trying. This seems like the typical way that the veteran soldiers stay sane in this insane world that they live in.
You know, the human ones, at least, because that's the only ones that we really see, because we're short-lived compared to these other folks. And so they seem to be able to process things a little bit better because of their longevity. But the humans are always, they're the ones that are the earth shakers, aren't they?
Yeah. So by contrast, Tist and Dee, they're apathetic. They're almost nihilistic.
Almost. They
believe in nothing.
They believe in nothing. They believe in nothing, Lebowski. We believe in nothing, Lebowski.
Not all of them, but A lot of them seem to have just given up and don't seem to. They're just there.
A majority, I think the only reason most of the Tist haven't killed themselves is because Rake provides them some kind of anchor.
Yeah, something to do, some sense of purpose.
Yeah, that's at least my guess is he's like, at least this guy's got something. He at least kind of finds things for us to do here and there. So what else have we got to do? Been there, done this about 8 million times, but I guess let's go to the war again. Let's sit here and do nothing again. Let's see. They've done everything 8 million times anyhow. So
I guess I would be curious, when you do live that long, at what point the fire just kind of goes out.
Yeah, good question.
If it ever does, so whether you could maintain it for long enough, or if there is definitely like a finite limit to experiencing what life has to give you.
I would think it would come and go, in all honesty. I think that it would come and go. Just like everyone else, it would be more, I would think it would be longer scales of time. You're probably happier longer, but you're also, man, that was a good century, That was a good eon back there. This has been a bad eon, but hey, I'm looking forward to the next one. It may be a little bit better.
Oh yeah. So it's just like life for us, just a longer timeline.
Yeah. That's what I imagine. That's the only thing I got to gauge it on. What do you want?
Yeah. Fiddler's grin fell away and he said, "Widen your senses, Trell. Tremorlor's is not the only hunger here. Every prisoner in these walls of wood feels our passage. They might well flinch from you and Icarium, but no such fear constrains their regard for the rest of us." Mappo looked away and he said, "Forgive me. I spared little thought for anyone else, as you have noted. Still, do not think I would hesitate in defending you if the need arose. I am not one to diminish the honor that is your companionship." Fiddler gave a sharp nod and straightened. He said, "A soldier's pragmatism. I had to know one way or the other." Mappo said, "I understand." Fiddler added, "Sorry if I offended you." Mappo said, "Not but a knife tip's prod. You stirred me to wakefulness." Iskarl Pust, squatting a few paces away, sputtered, "Muddy the puddle. Oh yes, yank his loyalties this way and that. Excellent. Witness the strategy of silence, while the intended victims unravel each other in pointless, divisive discourse. Oh yes, I have learned much from Tremorlor, and so assume a like strategy. Silence, a faint mocking smile suggesting I know more than I do, an air of mystery, yes, and fell knowledge. None could guess my confusion, my host of deluded illusions and elusive delusions. A mantle of marble hiding a crumbling core of sandstone. See how they stare at me, wondering, all wondering, at my secret wellspring of wisdom." That's pretty good. The marble amazing. Exterior with the crumbling sandstone interior.
I love that, dude. Oh, good gracious.
Crocus muttered, "Let's kill him, if only to put him out of misery." Fiddler growled, "And sacrifice such entertainment? Time to go." In a different voice, Puss said, "The blathering of secrets so they judge me ineffectual." The others spun to face him. Iskarl Pust offered a beatific smile. A swarm of wasps rose above the tangled root wall, sped over their heads and passed, paying them no heed. Fiddler felt his heart thud back into place. He drew a shuddering breath. There were some divers that he feared more than others. He thought, beasts are one thing, but insects. I agree with this sentiment. Rats are bad enough, but the flying insects take it to a whole other level, especially stinging insects. Imagine a divers of blood flies.
No, I would like not to imagine that, sir. That's just... that changes the whole landscape of everything on this land, that. If everything can become a divers or a soul taken. Mostly, I guess divers mostly in particular, that any insect could possibly be a hive mind, quite literally, of a humanoid or some other type of that's a shapeshifter that breaks down into a bunch of these things. That's pretty. So that means every time spiders, scorpions,
yeah, and
especially
termites.
I'm going to bring up something here. I don't think that this is necessary. This is wildlife spoiler for this planet. It's not really a book spoiler, but the Peralt spiders. Think about that bunch.
Yeah, I think they mentioned Peralt poison before.
Yeah,
in one of the books
they have, but I don't know if I may be, like I said, I may be spoiling that, but that's just a wildlife spoiler. That's not. It's one of the spiders in this world is so venomous. Those would be disgusting. If those are divers, oh my good gracious, that's horrifying.
Yeah, I don't love it.
I do not love that at all.
On the flip side, have you seen these shorts of people sitting next to marmots and how cute marmots are, the way they act?
I have not. I guess I'll have to check that out.
It's like a big gopher looking thing. Not even a gopher,
Okay.
because gophers aren't that cute.
Oh,
Like a
are they
prairie
the ones
dog,
that are?
like a big
It's,
prairie dog. I saw
yes.
this video of this guy sitting there, and he's sitting there eating a cracker, knowing that the marmot's going to be interested in the cracker, but he's
Right.
just ignoring the marmot. And the marmot comes up and he like walks up to him, and he's standing on his back legs, and he's like slowly getting closer. And the guy's very meticulously biting the corners of this cracker, not to eat the whole thing, but to see what the
Right.
marmot's going to do. And it just keeps getting closer and closer. And finally, he just takes it out of his hand and like starts nibbling on it. There's videos of them. They'll sit there on their hind legs. Someone will walk up and like pat them on the belly, and they're like, "Hey," you know, they just kind of like turn sideways a little bit. They're like, "What are you doing?" You know, and I just. So we're gravitating towards these really nasty, venomous, stingy, bitey insects. And
Yeah.
what if you were overcome with cuteness but a vicious divers, but it was
Oh yeah. It looks
almost
like
like
a
the South Park
marmot.
episode with the Christmas critter.
Oh. Oh my word. If it was Barry Beaver or one of those guys as a divers, it's a marmot though with all it'd be like all. It's got the Japanese anime thing going for it, where they look at you, it looks all friendly and cute, and then all
Mhm.
this it smiles. All of a sudden, it's just got a mouthful of razors. And next scene, there's just blood everywhere,
Oh
and the
man.
thing's oh, that's nasty, dude. But it'd be quick with them. At least I would think it'd be quicker with those. The insects, that's going to be slow. I would think would be slower, and especially I don't like wasps. I've been stung by a wasp a few times, and I don't love that either.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'll take the wasp over the spiders, though.
Yeah, I was killing a nest the other day. I don't know if they're technically wasps as a mud dauber.
Okay.
I was knocking the nest down.
Mhm.
Prior to this is how I do it. I don't do it this way anymore. And I'd hit it, knock it down with a stick, and run.
Okay.
And if there's like one or two on there, no big deal. Never had a problem until this time, where it beelined right for my tricep and stung me immediately. And I ran through the front yard. And I was like, yeah, the noise. And then I was feverish. And you know what's funny is when I was younger, I was like my oldest son's age. I was about 15. My dad was
Okay.
working on our car, and my younger brother had one of those wiffle ball bats, plastic hollow bat. And we used to hunt these mud daubers with those. And he hit a mud dauber in our front yard. It landed on my dad's arm while he was under the car, and it stung his arm. And and we didn't tell him for a long time that that's what happened.
Oh my gosh.
But
The worst. Oh my gosh. The worst one. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish. I got one too. I've been stung bad.
yeah, we did
Oh.
tell him later, but I didn't empathize with him until I got stung myself. How painful that was.
When we were young, we lived in this really heavily wooded area, and there was a creek system to it that we grew up running around through that thing all the time. And my brother and his friends had found this old rundown windmill. And it was, it's 20, 30 foot tall windmill. This is meant for someone's farm, but it wasn't tied to anything because it was just out there in the middle of this, out there nowhere. And they had taken some plywood up there somehow and made a platform on one of these things, so that was their clubhouse kind of deal. So we were trying to climb it one day up the ladder because it had a ladder. And like three of these dudes came out and hit me on the left, like right in the peg right there. And I fell about 10, 12 feet to the ground. That was a soft, loamy ground, but that didn't hurt. I was clutching my chest. I was just like, I did have the wind knocked out of me, but I was just crying because I was like about 10 or 12 and I was just crying. I was just sitting there crying, clutching my chest, can't hardly breathe because I got the wind knocked out of me. But I didn't care about the wind.
Man,
I was just,
you're lucky you weren't higher.
Oh, it was bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really lucky I wasn't higher.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That may be what's wrong with me. I've taken 2 falls where I didn't really get hurt, but maybe it knocked a few screws loose. I don't know.
Fiddler glanced back at the others. Ikariam hung limp in Mappo's arms, and his head was stained with blood. Mappo's gaze reached beyond Fiddler to the edifice that awaited them. Mappo's expression was twisted with anguish. Fiddler shook himself, pushing his attention past Mappo and his burden. Apsalar, Relok, and Crocus stood ranged behind Mappo in a protective cordon, while beyond them were the hounds and Iskrel Pust. 5 pairs of bestial eyes and 1 human burned with intent. Fiddler thought, dubious allies are rear guard. Talk about a badly timed schism. That intent was fixed on Ikariam. Fiddler thought Ikariam himself wished it, and in so saying rendered the Trell's heart. The price of acquiescence is as nothing to the pain of refusal. Yet Mappo will surrender his life to this, and we're likely to do the same. None of us, not even Apslar, is cold-hearted enough to stand back to see the Jag taken. Hood's breath, we are fools, and Mappo the greatest fool of us all. I wanted to discuss with you your thoughts on the responsibility of a friend helping another friend who has made a decision to give up on life while they're in an emotionally compromised state, like
Okay.
Ikarian was. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that you probably know, knowing me, I being the guy that's a lifter and an encourager, I could not stand by. You would have to take me out of the equation if you were trying to take yourself out of. If you want to give up on me, kind of deal, like a life kind of deal, you'd have to kind of kill me or something to get rid of me because I wouldn't let you do it.
Mm-hmm. I agree, because in most cases, from what I've heard, people that attempted to take themselves out and failed at the last minute realized that they were making a mistake.
Yes.
And the only reason we know that they regretted this because they didn't succeed.
Yes.
I truly think that most people that get to this point, they do not see a path out, but given time to process the situation with help from people that love them, they should be able to get through it.
Yes.
The reason this is so fresh in my mind is I was listening to a Lex Friedman podcast where he had Andrew Callahan on there he's been on a couple of different YouTube channels. All Gas, No Breaks was one where they were going to interviewing some people at parties and festivals and stuff. And it was kind of comedy-ish, interviewing people on drugs and stuff. And then he now does this Channel 5 YouTube channel. He got into some issues as type of a cancellation type scenario. And all his friends ghosted him and people he'd known for years. And he was kind of in this state and he was doing a bunch of research on taking yourself out. And he came to the conclusion that he was going to try and drink himself to death so that it didn't look like he was actively
leaving Las Vegas style.
Yeah. And he was talking about the effects on all the people that you leave behind. I think he said that the statistic is your parents will live 15 years less if you do this. And he was talking through all this stuff. And I was just listening to this yesterday. And when I read this, Fiddler thinking about they weren't heartless enough to let Ikariam give himself up here. None of the people in the group. I was thinking about how that relates to what I was listening to yesterday.
Right. I feel that your friends are people that you look out for.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something the matter with them, you don't want them to self-delete.
Yeah.
You want to get them help, man. It's like you want to get them help because you want your friends to be around. At least I do,
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel that you're obliged to help people. I feel that you're kind of obliged to help people in general because I do when I can. Like since I've been here, being in a small town, it's easier to help people on a one-on-one basis. I've taken some homeless people to the hospital here and stuff like that. Just like, get in the car, dude. Let me take you. Look awful. Guy was going. It took him one time. It's easier to help people in a small town, but I can't let people just sit by. It's hard. And since I've become a Christian, and in particular, that's really stirred that up more empathy. A deeper empathy for my fellow human, especially the struggles of humans and people and just in animals even. But I just really feel compelled, and I don't know if I'm just sure there's a lot of folks that feel the same way. I would hope.
Mm-hmm. So let's add a layer of complexity to this.
Okay.
Mappo and Ikariam, it's a little bit different from the perspective that if Ikariam gets mad, he's literally a walking bomb that could destroy reality effectively. I feel like it could be to get to that level if something doesn't stop him almost.
Yes. And this is what makes this scenario so bad also is the fact that when we do this memento style reset every time on Ikariam, does he know who Mappo is? He's always he calls him friend.
Mm-hmm.
Does he even know his name?
I think he does because we saw it happen earlier in the book where he was about to lose control and Mappo, he nicked his sword. Remember? And Mappo said, yeah, I took your sword and you got knocked out by accident or during the battle or whatever. Remember that? And so Ikariam still remembers him now. So,
okay. But I'm just curious if there's times when he's come close, I wonder if he's had his mind wiped by his own whatever mechanism that does this to him. Whatever brain damage. I don't mean that as an ugly insult. I mean, he's obviously got some kind of brain damage or something. I mean, that does not allow him. He can make new memories, but every time he does, it seems like it gets wiped or something due to his anger.
It's almost like he's got a limited hard drive space, and then the oldest stuff gets wiped out as the new stuff comes in. Almost like a DVR for security camera or something, right?
I now need to see the Hulk. It's like Memento starring Bruce Banner.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's all the blackouts are him hulking out, and when he wakes up, he's like, I forgot something. Dadgummit.
So the question then is, I guess that's the moral quandary here, right? Is like we both feel very strongly about trying to support people that are mentally in this position.
Yeah.
And then the morality question is, okay, but what if they could destroy everything? You know that they're naturally a good person, but there's this dark side of them that if they get pushed too far, they could just really, I guess the hopeful aspect would be, okay, can we get them to a point where they never go that far again?
That's a good question. Yeah. Because this isn't like someone who's trying to, it's not like Hitler who's trying to take over someplace and kill a bunch of people. This is a guy who just kind of randomly detonates.
It's not even random. It's just, he's got to have something that triggers him.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he gets triggered and it's on apparently. And I'm curious, it does beg the question, how many times has this happened? Has it happened many times or just like twice and everyone's like, this is a bad deal?
It's happened enough.
It's happened enough. Agreed.
Enough to put some type of contingency in place.
Well, imagine if you lived in his neighborhood. It's like dadgummit. It's like, insurance guy's got to hate this man. It's like,
oh yeah. I mean, it's almost like a flood plain, right? You're like, all right, we're not building houses here anymore.
Oh, you're out of luck. Okay.
Yeah.
He will be passing through here in the next 600 years. Okay, I'm good. I'll be dead in 100, so we're good.
All right. Moving along. Crocus asked, "What's on your mind, Fid?" His tone suggested he had a pretty good idea. Fiddler muttered, "Sapper's got a saying, wide-eyed stupid." Crocus slowly nodded. In other paths of the maze, the taking had begun. Shapeshifters, the most powerful of them, the survivors who made it this far, had begun their assault on the house of the Azath. Tremorlore defended itself the only way it could, by devouring, by imprisoning, but there were too many, coming too quickly. Wood snapped, woven cages shattered. The sound was of a forest being destroyed, branch by branch, tree by tree, an inexorable progression, ever closer to the house itself. Puss hissed, "We're running out of time! Things are coming up behind us. Things! How much clearer can I be?" Fiddler said, "We may still need him." Puss shouted, "Oh, aye! The trail can throw him like a sack of grain." Mappo growled, "I can bring him around quickly enough. I still carry some of those Denul elixirs from your temple," Iskrol pussed. Fiddler said, "Let's get moving." Something was indeed coming up behind them, making the air redolent with sickly spice. The hounds had pulled their attention from Mappo and Icarium and now faced the other way, revealing restless nerves as they shifted position. The trail made a sharp bend 20 paces from where the huge beasts stood. A piercing scream ripped the air, coming from just beyond that bend, followed by the explosive sounds of battle. It ended abruptly. Puss hissed, "We've waited too long. Now it comes." Fiddler swung his crossbow around, eyes fixed on the place where the pursuer would appear. Instead, a small, nut-brown creature half flapped, half scampered into view. Tendrils of smoke drifted from it. Puss shrieked, "Aye! They plague me!" Crocus bolted forward, pushing his way between Shan and Gear as if they were no more than a pair of mules. He said, "Moby?" The familiar raced toward Crocus and leapt at the last moment to land in the lad's arms, where it clung tenaciously, wings twitching. Crocus's head snapped back, and he said, "Ugh, you stink like the abyss." Fiddler thought, Moby, that damned familiar. His gaze flicked to Mappo, who was frowning. Puss cursed, "Baccaral! A pet? A pet? Madness!" Crocus said, "My uncle's familiar," as he approached. The hound shrank from his path. And that's an interesting reaction. They shrank from Icarium when he got mad. They do the same with Moby, but not Rake.
Yeah, that's extremely interesting because the fact that they don't move for Rake, to me, Rake is one of the biggest players on the scene, and they don't flinch for him. They look ready to take him on, or they did take him on.
They attempted to, yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that it seemed like even when he killed one of them, they didn't even, or killed both of them, they didn't even flinch on coming on him again. Like they would attack him again. It's like they wouldn't last very long if he killed them that quick. But the fact that they're not afraid, but they seem to be afraid of Moby. Akarium, I kind of get. Akarium is such a wild card, and we know he's dangerous. The hounds obviously know he's dangerous. But Brake is, I find him supremely the most menacing person on the planet.
You would think that they would be more cautious given the sword, Dragnapur.
Yeah.
That's the real critical factor with battling him.
That is true, but I'm assuming that minus the sword, Rake is still a formidable fella.
Yeah, turned into a dragon.
Yeah.
He turns into a dragon and eats you.
Yeah. Or just boils the skin off your bones with his whatever power he wields. He's got all kinds of, he can freeze you to death. I know that with his access to the dark, and that's just the dark is so cold it frees you. So, yeah, that's very interesting why they're so freaked out over Moby.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out exactly what he is.
Maybe he's, well, I'm assuming his future's a writer. I don't know why I'm convinced he's the guy that wrote that Baccarat intro to
Trout Baccarala, or whatever his name was.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm convinced this is him, because Erikson does these little things where he leads us along sometimes, and I'm waiting to see if that leads anywhere, if it ever does.
That'd be funny. Fiddler thought, "Oh, lad, much more than that, it seems." This is in relation to him saying it was the uncle's familiar.
Yeah.
Mappo said, "An ally, then." Crocus nodded, though with obvious uncertainty. He said, "Hood knows how he found us, how he survived." Puss shouted, "Dissembler! A familiar? Shall we ask the opinion of that dead shapeshifter back there? Oh no, we can't, can we? It's been torn to pieces." Crocus said nothing. Apsalar said, "Never mind, we're wasting time. To the house." Puss wheeled on her and said, "Never mind? What conniving deceit has arrived among us? What foul betrayal hangs over us? There, hanging from the lad's shirt." Fiddler snapped, "Enough! Stay here then, Puss, you and your hounds." He faced the house again and said, "What do you think, Mappo? Nothing's got close to it yet. If we make a run for it." Mappo said, "We can but try." Fiddler asked, "Do you think the door will open for us?" Mappo said, "I do not know." Fiddler said, "Let's find out then." Mappo nodded. They had a clear view of Tremorlore. A low wall surrounded it, made of what appeared to be volcanic rock, jagged and sharp. The only visible break in that wall was a narrow gate, over which arched a weave of vines. The house itself was tawny in color, probably built of limestone, its entrance recessed between a pair of squat, asymmetrical two-story towers, neither of which possessed windows. A winding path of flagstones connected the gate with the shadow-swallowed door. Low, gnarled trees occupied the yard, each surmounting a hump. What's under those humps?
Mm-hmm.
Fiddler thought, a sister to Deadhouse in Malice City, little different from the one in Darujistan, all of a kind, all Azath, though where that name came from and how long ago no one knows or will ever know. Mappo spoke in a low voice. It said that Azath bridged the realms, every realm. It said that even time itself ceases within their walls. And this is what I was alluding to earlier, where we get a little bit more information about the Azath.
I like any little thing we get on these things, because that's... I was just thinking of the thought, if the Azath appeared in a place that was modern, would it make a nice, modern house? I'm assuming it would.
They all seem to be thematically similar, though.
They do. It's very unusual. I don't know why I like the idea of these houses. They're so strange. So enigmatic.
Definitely. Fiddler said, "And those doors open to but a few, for reasons unknown." He scowled at his own words. Apsalar moved to the front, stepping past Fiddler. Startled, Fiddler grunted, "In a hurry, lass?" She looked back at him and said, "The one who possessed me, Fiddler, and Azath welcomed him, once." Fiddler thought, true enough. And why does that make me so nervous now, and here? He said, "So how's it done? Special knock? Key under the loose flagstone?" She smiled and said, "No, something much simpler. Audacity." Fiddler said, "Well, we've plenty of that. We're here, aren't we?" Apsalar said, "Aye, we are." She led the way, and all followed. Mappo rumbled, "That conch shell, immense damage was delivered to the soul-taken and divers, is still being delivered. It seems, for the Azath, it may be proving enough." Fiddler said, "And you pray that is so?" Mappo said, I do." Fiddler asked, "So why didn't that deathly song destroy us as well?" Mappo asked, "You are asking me, Fiddler? The gift was given to you, was it not?" Fiddler said, "Yes. I saved a little girl, kin to the Spirit Walker." Mappo asked, "Which Spirit Walker, Fiddler?" Fiddler said, "Kimlock." Mappo was silent for half a dozen paces. Then a frustrated growl rose from him. "A girl, you said. No matter how close akin, Kimlock's reward far outweighed your gesture. More, it seemed precisely intended for its use. The sorcery in that song was aspected, Fiddler. Tell me, did Kimlock know you sought Tremorlore?" Fiddler said, "I certainly didn't tell him as much." Mappo asked, "Did he touch you at any time? The brush of a finger against your arm, anything?" Fiddler said, "He asked to, as I recall. He wanted my story. I declined. But Hood's breath, Mappo, I truly cannot recall if there was some chance contact." Mappo said, "I think there must have been." And Billy, you noticed that Kimlock put his hand on Fiddler's shoulder as he said goodbye to him. And that was a great observation there.
Thank you, sir.
Fiddler said, "If so, I forgive him the indiscretion." Mappo said, "I imagine he anticipated that as well." Even as Tremorlore withstood the assault that raged from all sides, the battles were far from over. And in some places the sound of shattering wood was a seemingly unstoppable progression, coming ever closer. Absalar increased pace as one of those unseen, sundering avalanches drew near the group, driving for the arched gate. A moment later, amidst a rising roar, they all broke into a run. Fiddler scrambled forward and asked, Where in Hood's name is it?" The answer came in a sudden sleet of ice-cold water from above, the savage opening of a warren. Emerging from within that hovering, strangely suspended spray, not 50 paces behind them, the enormous head and maw of a denrabi lunged into view, wreathed in uprooted seagrasses, kelp, and strange skeletal branches. A swarm of wasps rose before it and was devoured entire without pause. That kind of seems almost sandworm-like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And a quick reminder that a denrabi is a giant centipede-like aquatic creature. 3 more denrabi appeared from that torrential portal. The roiling spume of water that held them seemed to burn off wherever it descended upon the roots of the maze, yet the creatures remained suspended, riding the hissing maelstrom. Images flashed through Fiddler within the span of a single heartbeat. Fiddler thought, Kanzu Sea, not a soul taken after all, not a single beast, but a pack, a divers, and I'm out of cussers. And this is related to the one that he killed at the beginning of the book, in case anyone forgot.
That is nasty. And probably really angry.
Yeah.
Because it lost one of itself.
Uh-huh.
And I'm assuming that's not a fun thing for these things to lose.
No, those are huge. I want to say that...
I think they're sandworm size.
It was about 100 meters long or something, wasn't it? Really big.
Huge, dude. They're bigger than whales. I think is the impression I get. Like a giant whale-sized centipede. Because it mentioned that they use their legs to grapple onto ships and drag. They blow out their air and sink to the bottom and drag a ship with them. They were so big.
I think we described it as like an armored centipede kraken thing.
Submarine.
yeah, submarine kraken. That's what it was.
Horrifying.
A moment later, it became clear just how untested the Hounds of Shadow had been thus far. He felt the power emanate from the 5 beasts. So similar was it to that of dragons. It rolled like a breath, a surge of raw sorcery that preceded the hounds as they sprang forward with blurring speed. Shan was the first to reach the lead denrabi, the first to plunge into its gaping, serrated mouth and vanish within the yawning darkness. The creature reared back lightning quick, and if that massive, blunt visage could show surprise, it did so now. Gear reached the next one, and the denrabi lunged, not to swallow, but to bite down, to flense with the 1,000 jagged plates of its teeth. The hound's power buckled under those snapping jaws, but did not shatter. An instant later, Gear was through, past those teeth, bearing itself within the creature, where it delivered mayhem. And that kind of reminds me of the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where they fought that eldritch octopus thing, and they couldn't get access to it because its skin was too strong. So Drax went inside and began stabbing frantically at the back of the throat.
Oh, I get that. That is too funny. I can see that. That is. I love the idea, especially when the first one ran down that dude's mouth. I could just see its face like, what? What did I just get here? Because these things are so big that the hound would be small going in there. but they're apparently super, especially when the gear gets attacked. And when it says it doesn't break, I can see this thing trying to crush it, but not even being able to penetrate. I guess it's force. It's the
Yeah, some type
power of
of
the force. I don't
sphere
know.
of force field around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I guess they describe the mages as gathering their warren around them, so
Yeah.
some type of protective shield.
Yeah. And I guess that are they part of the Warren of Shadow itself?
Mm-hmm.
So they are like an aspect of Shadow itself.
I believe so.
I mean, that's what I believe too. I don't know what that entails. I mean, I'm assuming it makes them powerful, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instead of drawing from it, I think they're part of it.
that's what I'm getting at. They don't need to access it because they are it.
Nice.
I don't think that they need to there's not any need to. They don't wield sorcery. They just have probably like you said, a protection, and whatever strength they have is probably more angry. They channel more of it, I guess, and just it's anger and protection is probably, and that's all they need to do.
I'm sorry. I'm getting the Bane speech
Oh no,
from Dark Knight Rises.
I don't even remember that movie. I really don't remember that movie
Where he's
at
talking about he
all.
was born in the darkness.
Oh no. Oh yeah. 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 I'm sorry. I'm a comic book nerd. You know that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still pissed off at that era of that whole era. That was the death of Superman, Hal Jordan going crazy, destroying the entire Green Lantern Corps, becoming Parallax, and Batman getting his back broken all in the same year.
Talk about trauma.
Yeah, and it'd be one thing if it was well done, and none of it was well done. It was all poorly done, poorly handled, poorly done, poorly finished, and it's like, they used to be so good. Well, that was before they got good for me. It was just an era. They were good for a while, then they got bad. They do that. They wax and wane. Look at the era now. I'm not reading now. Good gracious, all this stuff is so.
I don't think it's coming back, Billy.
It's not. And what's funny that I don't understand that these people that control these like Disney / Marvel don't understand what we're losing readership. Well, let's double down. It's like that's not going to help. But if it helps sink the company, I'm almost for that. I'd rather you die as a company than continue making dreck like you're doing.
Take the movies out of it, right? And so let's talk about just the comic books themselves. It's just they don't have people that have the same love or skill. They don't have the love of the source material that they're building on top of, and they don't have the skill to do it.
No.
I think that's ultimately what's going on from the storyline perspective of the books.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something. A couple of years ago, they did that Metal Knights or something where they had the Batman Who Laughs. Did you ever read any of that? Where it's an alternate universe Batman that's like Batman crossed
Crazy,
with
right?
Joker. Yeah, he's crossed with Joker. Some of the coolest looking Batman artwork I've seen in a long time.
I've heard about, and they've always dabbled in this. When DC they got rid of the multiverse in the 80s. That's when they killed Barry Allen Flash and kept him dead until they decided to bring the multiverse back recently.
Was that the New 52 or whatever?
Yes. And so bringing it back, which, they had caused so much confusion to begin with, this is why they got rid of it. We're going to have a singular. I understand you're in the business to make money, but you make money by giving product that people want, not by preaching at them and not by being lazy. Because if you're lazy or you're preaching at them, you're going to lose them.
Right.
It's shameful. Stop it, Marvel. Stop it. Disney, please.
No, I think their board of directors is starting to get onto them. And so I think they canceled all of the next phase of Marvel movies to reevaluate what they're doing, with the exception of Deadpool 3.
Right.
I've seen articles rising up that Robert Downey Jr. is saying he would come back as Iron Man, which I don't know how they're going to do that, because that feels like it would take away from the sacrifice of the end of the Infinity Wars,
I'm sorry. I'm a comic book fan, and somebody that you and I both used to work with at Fry's said, never understood they can't bring people back. It's like, dude, it's comic books.
That's true.
Of course they can bring them back. They've done so since the dawn of comic books. Movies are different, but I have no problem if they want to, if they want to start, I think they should bring people back, but not the same actors. I think they should kick some of these people out that have kind of like, I don't want to be so-and-so anymore. Fine, get out. I don't want, like Chris Evans. I love Captain America, but if you don't want to be Captain America, get out. I'd rather get somebody else that really wants to be him. I was hoping it'd be Sebastian Stan, but it's Anthony Mackie instead, which
I don't mind Anthony Mackie, to be honest with you.
I don't mind him either, but he's not a superhero. He's not a super soldier.
Yeah.
He is a mechanically assisted superhero, like Iron Man. If the tech don't work, the
Yeah.
man don't work.
Right.
I
But
mean,
Iron
he's a
Man
good
also is a genius.
Iron Man is a genius. Falcon is a good, quick-thinking pilot and a good soldier, and a dadgum good soldier, and a
Yeah.
dadgum good fighter. I love the Falcon, but he's not on the same par as Bucky and Captain America. I mean, that's the only reason I want a super soldier to be the super soldier that is Captain America.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The other hounds made for the remaining 2 Denrabi. Only Blind remained with the group. The lead Denrabi began thrashing now, whipping its enormous bulk as the torrent of its warren collapsed around it, crushing flat walls of the maze, where long imprisoned victims stirred amidst the wreckage, withered limbs reaching skyward through mud-churned water, clutching air. The second Denrabi fell into the same writhing tumult. A hand clutched Fiddler's arm, pulling him hard around. Crocus hissed, "Come on, we've got more company, Fid." And now Fiddler saw the object of Crocus's attention off to his right, almost behind Tremorlore, still 1,000 paces distant, yet fast approaching. A swarm like no other, blood flies in a solid black cloud the size of a thunderhead billowing, surging toward them. It's my worst nightmare, and I completely forgot about this when I made that note earlier about imagine it being blood flies. Like, I do the notes linearly, right? I don't read the chapter,
Right.
then do my notes. So it's hilarious that that's what it actually is. Oh, God.
Now, I have a question about this. If they bite you and they impregnate your skin with their maggots, are their maggots part of the divers too?
Oh, I would hope not, but I think probably.
Oh,
Think about how fast that could replicate.
Dude, that's why there's a thunderhead cloud size of these nasty
What
things.
a nightmare. They're about to clean up.
Oh, that's horrifying, dude.
You need a fire mage to deal with that right
you
now.
do. Yes, you do.
Leaving the Denrabi in the throes of a violent death behind them, the group sprinted for the house.
Do they make off? Deep Woods off in the land of Malazan.
I need that Monsanto Warren. I need access to that.
The pest control Warren. The Orkin Warren.
It's adjacent to the boat repair Warren.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. As he passed beneath the leafless arch of vines, Fiddler saw Apsalar reach the door, close her hands on the broad, heavy ring latch, and twist it. He saw the muscles rise on her forearms, straining. Then she staggered back a step, as if dismissively, contemptuously shoved. As Fiddler, trailed by Crocus, Mappo with his charge, Relok, then Pustin Blind, reached the flat, paved landing, he saw her spin round, her expression one of shock and disbelief. Fiddler thought, it won't open. Tremorlore has refused us. Fiddler skidded to a halt, whirled. The sky was black, alive, and coming straight for them. That's heck of a cliffhanger right there.
Yes, ooh. I won't sleep good knowing that they're stuck here.
Oh, nasty. Backs against the wall.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to stop there this week, and we will finish out the chapter next week. For standout moments, I enjoyed getting a little more detail regarding Kimlock's spell.
Yeah, I like how it seemed to still be, like, while these guys were, the whole time when they're still roaming, it's still hanging out. Mm-hmm. Like doing something.
Doing work.
Yeah, working. That's wild, man.
The buildup to the re-emergence of Moby, all that noise, and then this piercing scream right around the corner, then all of a sudden this little creature comes flapping, smoking as it comes around the corner. It's
the bunny from the Holy Grail, Monty Python's Holy Grail. The rabbit? Behind the rabbit? It's like, yes. No, it is the rabbit. It's like this.
And then the hounds cowering in fear of Moby when he approached.
Yeah, what
says
is
a lot.
That about? That says a lot. I'm guessing it's so funny with this buildup of Moby. I'm guessing he's been the guy that's just been killing these things all out of sight. Is that the implication here?
I guess so. He had to follow them here. Yeah. So there's been a lot of stuff going on, unseen, but noises, and
I think he's keeping their trail clean.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't know how, but this little fella's doing it.
The Denrabi turning out to be a divers instead of a soul taken. That's quite the twist there, because you don't want to piss that thing off.
No. Well, let's just talk about the education in divers here. We've been educated this chapter in the fact that it can be anything from blood flies up to Denrabi. And and that's scary. That's almost like anything in this world can be. Do you see divers as almost some bizarre form of lycanthropy, like a weird werewolfism?
Soul taken, yes. Divers is a whole nother beast, because now we're talking about multiples, spreading your consciousness across multiple entities.
But the soul taken, do they also, are the soul taken, do they have the fever as well? Do they pass the fever on? Or is it just the divers that pass the fever on? It's soul taken is too, isn't it?
I think it's both of them.
I think it's both of them. I think they're both a sickness. It's almost like they're both sicknesses. Mm-hmm. So they're both almost like a weird form of lycanthropy.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. With Soul Taken, I guess it's less strange because we're used to shapeshifters in our mythology. But it's really the splitting into multiples that bends my mind a little bit, because it's so nasty, especially when you get into thousands, hundreds of thousands of rats or bugs. Yeah. It's just...
It's to know that it's one mind controlling these thousands, and especially, I'm assuming, millions of blood flies within a cloud that big. It's got to be millions or billions of them things to be a cloud that big.
I guess if only one survives, then it's like Wolverine. If only one cell survives, you can regenerate.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. The hounds assaulting the Denrabi by entering their bodies to kill them from the inside. I really enjoyed that.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
That was about the only comic relief we got, other than that and Pust ranting as usual. Pust is always good comic relief for his ranting.
Mm-hmm. And then the bloodfly divers showing up really surprised me, but also made me laugh because I had just said that'd be my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
That's my worst case scenario.
And it's not cool. In a good way. I mean, it's nicely done, Mr. Erikson, but not cool.
Yeah.
For our friends in our party down here. Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the cliffhanger of the house refusing to open for them.
Nice. I agree. That's a great spot, too.
Yeah. All right. Great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, man. Great episode, bro.
You got any final thoughts before we drop off here?
Just a really good episode, man. I really enjoyed all this crazy escalation here, especially with Kimlock's spell center chewing the territory up around him, doing Lord knows what.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey, see y'all next week.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.